and that was a covenant that I had. I was proud of the AAA rating that we had with the rating agencies, and simply the rule by which we lived was, if we couldn't afford it, we wouldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And in your family life and personal life, it's not a bad principle. In corporate life, the security of your employees, of your customers, of your suppliers, of all of the constituencies that you serve, is better served if you run a financially and fiscally responsible organization. And what actually happened, of course, during my time was that off-balance sheet liabilities, where debt and obligations were obscured, was part of the problem, because it's a complex issue, but many balance sheets weren't entirely honest, and people that were lending to companies had hidden from them the fact that the companies had other obligations. We at Harsco would not countenance that, and my colleague, who was then my chief financial officer and now is the chairman and CEO, and I agreed as a policy that we would not do that. Other people's money, that is debt, well used, where the returns from the investments do create value, above and beyond the cost of the capital you've got, is a good idea, because it does enable you to grow more quickly.
Mm-hmm. What about national debt?
The same principles apply. Mm-hmm. We have revenues and we have expenditures and we have obligations, and laws are enacted whereby these people have pension payments, and this is the healthcare cost of government, and so on and so forth. And what actually has happened is that it seems to me that the business head has been cut off, mm-hmm. and satisfying unmanaged expectations with the electorate has been put to the fore. Mm-hmm. And therefore spend and spend beyond our means, and we've seen in Europe just recently exactly what those policies lead to, and the consequences of them are in fact disastrous.
Mm-hmm. We hear talk by many international economists extolling the virtues of free trade. Then we hear commentary by some about the virtues of free trade, but we also need to have something called fair trade. Do we have free trade in the international scene today, Derek?
Well, from the number of complaints that you see to the World Trade Organization about various countries and what they do and are doing regarding being free and fair, you would come to the conclusion that perhaps it's not. Emerging countries are given a great deal of latitude to close their borders to imports if they don't want them, and they have various means of doing that. Long periods to obtain licenses, you need central government approval, technical qualifications. There are a whole list and arrows in their quiver that they can fire at you to prevent you from doing that. The freedom to trade seems to be more in developed countries, where we invite imports to provide lower cost to our consumer. And at the same time, what we've been doing here is go away from manufacturing and shifting manufacturing abroad and becoming higher tech. As you know, we're the world's leaders still here in what I would call information technology as the broadest sense, in the broadest sense. And so the United States has made a remarkable adjustment in terms of the way we've transferred. And I use my evidence is we complain about the unemployment rate here, but I can tell you the unemployment rate here is very acceptable in relative terms to our European counterparts. and certainly in other countries. And so, is it free? No. Is it fair? No. But being competitive is part of business, and we have to find ways ourselves to penetrate these barriers and push organisationally through the various institutions that deal with each other in these countries, whether it's government to government, chamber of commerce to chamber of commerce, whatever it is, to move forward to some equanimity. However, it seems to me that that's getting worse and not getting better. And
okay. Well, I'd like to come back and talk to you, pick up on that issue and China and the role of China in the New World economy. We'll be right back after this message.
Behind the Headlines is brought to you as a public service by PAConstructionJobs.com, where you can look for job openings, post a resume, or learn more about a rewarding career in Pennsylvania's highway construction industry. And by the Pennsylvania Business Council, envisioning a commonwealth in which residents enjoy a very high quality of life in sustainable communities. The Council works aggressively to define key long-term policy strategies and solutions that make the Commonwealth more competitive, creating and sustaining a better Pennsylvania. Additional underwriting provided by the Worrell Corporation Foundation, based in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. By Weber Incorporated, a leading manufacturer of hardwood lumber and wood products. The Highway Equipment and Supply Company, Central and Northeast Pennsylvania's authorized distributor for premier construction equipment manufacturers. And the American Home Bank, a nationally chartered and FDIC insured yet locally owned and operated bank in central Pennsylvania. And by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business. Behind the Headlines is also supported as a public service by Daily Express, transporting construction, farm, and industrial equipment throughout the United States.
Hi, welcome back to Behind the Headlines. And on this edition of Behind the Headlines, we're fortunate enough to have Dr. Derek Hathaway with us talking about international, national, and state economics. Derek, we were on the subject of international economics, and we were talking about free trade, and of course, one of the issues that always arises in Washington, D.C. is China and its position in the world economy. Of course, it has purchased much of America's debt, and we are buying many of our products now from China. What role does China play in the world economy? What role do you foresee unfolding in the future for China and America's economic ties, for example?
Well, China's progress in the past decade has been extraordinary. Growth at the rate of 8, 9, 10%, which people were questioning a couple of years ago. But even in today's recession, they are still growing at a very, very high rate. Even this morning on BBC World News, we heard that last month, for instance, their exports grew by 50%. And the main recipients of their exports are Russia, India, would you believe, and the USA.
And why? Why is that?
Well, because, and can you imagine being more competitive than India? India is importing, which must have one of the lowest and cheapest labour forces in the world. Russia, that struggles for foreign exchange, or has done until its natural resources started to generate income for them, gas and oil and so on, and they started to run their economy more efficiently. 20 billion was mentioned this morning as being their balance of payments deficit as far as, so Russia is selling to China 20 billion less than China is selling to Russia. And it's creating, I fear, not only economic difficulties, but it's creating political difficulties. And that's what really concerns me. When you consider the economy, economic issues, there's a grave danger that you don't take recognition of what's happening politically here.